Interested in what happens if you put good people in an evil place. Does the situation outside of you come to control your behavior, or does the things inside of you, your attitudes, your values, your morality, allow you to rise above a negative environment?
Police car pulls up in front, and a cop comes to the front door, knocks, and says he's looking for me. So they, right there, they took me out the door, they put my hands against the car. It was a real cop car, it was a real policeman, and there were real neighbors in the street who didn't know that I was, this was an experiment. This is where it all happened in the summer of 1971. Right down this corridor in the basement of the psychology department is where we converted these offices and storage rooms to prison cells. And we had students like yourself, college students from all over the country, play the roles of either prisoners or guards. This was the yard, the prison yard. Here in this closet was solitary confinement, the infamous hole where the guards put prisoners for punishment. You can see over on the wall, one of the prisoners etched the days of the week to mark the passage of time, starting on Sunday, Monday, through the rest of the week.
Well, how long did the study last?
Well, we were going to run it for 2 weeks, but we had to end it after only 6 days.
Why was that?
There were a few guards who hated to see the prisoners suffer. They never did anything which would be demeaning of the prisoners. The interesting thing is none of the good guards ever intervened in the behavior of the guards who gradually became more and more sadistic over time.
I had really thought that I was incapable of this kind of behavior. I was surprised, no, I was dismayed to find out that I could really be that I could act in a manner so absolutely unaccustomed to anything I would even really dream of doing. And while I was doing it, I didn't feel any regret. I didn't feel any guilt. It was only afterwards when I began to reflect on what I had done that this behavior began to dawn on me, and I realized that this was a part of me I hadn't really noticed before.
We like to think there is this core of human nature that good people can't do bad things and that good people will dominate over bad situations. In fact, one way to look at the Stanford Prison Study is that we put good people in an evil place and we saw who won. Well, the sad message is, in this case, the evil place won over the good people.
This is a photograph from World War II. This is a German soldier who's about to execute a mother who's holding her child against her. There are several things to note about this photograph here. First of all, the fact that he's about to do this in front of a cameraman suggests he's got a diminished emotional reactivity to this situation. He's not distressed by the situation. There's also a notion of compartmentalization going on here, because this photograph he actually mailed back to his family. So he's got a family, he cares about his wife and child, and he sends them a picture of executing somebody else's family. So there's this notion where he can take these ideas that are very different and compartmentalize them. The neurosurgeon Yitzhak Fried in the late 90s started thinking about this a lot, and he said, you know, when you look across all these different events in the world, You find this kind of behavior everywhere, where people just, it's like they lose their normal brain function and become somebody different. They act very differently. So he named this Syndrome E, and he said there are very particular signs and symptoms that you would look for, just like you would look for coughing and fever with pneumonia. You look for particular things that characterize people behaving like this.
Time we went to Syria, it was a change. We came from Jordan. Jordan is really a desert. So when we got there, it was beautiful. My aunt used to call it the country with happy skies. And it was happy. There were trees and rivers and water, the smell of jasmine and the smell of tuberose. Beautiful. And the fruits, the smell of the fruits and the taste. Everything there was beautiful. It was the best time we spent there. The cafes and the walk in the streets. It was a great place. And then this has to happen. And they replaced all these happy memories with the happy skies became gloomy and dark, filled with black smoke. The smell of roses, I'm sure it's been replaced with the smell of blood and death. Just the feeling that all these innocent people, all these beautiful people that I knew when I was a little girl, and the faces, the happy faces, are now maybe dead, maybe being tortured, maybe in prison. I don't know what happened to all these people that I used to know.
Every generation has its built-in assumptions that the world is flat, or that the world is round, things we take for granted that may or may not be true. Of course, in the vast majority of cases, historically, these things aren't true, but we're locked into these precepts without even knowing it oftentimes.
Why do we keep recreating the same reality? Isn't it amazing that we have options and potentials that exist, but we're unaware of them? Is it possible that we're so conditioned to our daily lives, so conditioned to the way we create our lives, that we buy the idea that we have no control at all,